Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince.
And Vince, what is today's topic since you're the one who came up with it?
The topic is it worthwhile to re-release a movie in the movie theaters?
Indeed. That's something that's been going on a lot this year, especially with Lion King 3D and stuff like that. And then you just saw Ghostbusters. This kind of thing happens every so often. And I think it's happening more now than it used to. So why don't you start, since you're the one who came up with this?
I think part of this is, well, Lion King is going to be born out of Disney has lots of money, and they know kids will still like the stuff that has come beforehand, so they can afford to re-release things and make loads of money again. So, but Ghostbusters, why do that? I think there's a certain nostalgia.
They did it with Back to the Future also, because it was their anniversary this year.
I think every so often things get re-released and they say, hey guys, you should go watch this movie. And what's the point in doing that? Well, I have to say this. I was born in '85. Ghostbusters 1 came out in '84.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters through the cartoon show and then subsequently the movies for me was a big part of my childhood. I have a big basket full of Ghostbusters toys back at my parents' house. I love the Ghostbusters. And my brother used to say to me, we went to see this movie, I guarantee it. I'm like, it came out in '84. I was not alive. But my point is, it gives guys like me a chance to see certain things that they didn't see before. And maybe I'm going to just get a little teary-eyed and get on my little soapbox here for a minute. But
would you like me to leave the room?
Yes! Yeah. So, I was sitting in the movie theater watching Ghostbusters last night, from the time that this was filmed. and there's this guy sitting right behind me. And I can hear him every so often, just silently, just whispering the words along with the whole movie. Every word in this movie, when it's quiet enough for me to hear the guy behind me, he's memorized it.
Is that irritating?
And it would have been had I not sympathized. Like, this is a movie that, like think of your favorite movie, and then think of it about 10 years from now, and then think of how you're going to lip sync the words. It's a magical type of thing. There are things that have a cult following, and Ghostbusters is one of them.
Well, you and I sat down and watched Batman '89 once together, if I remember, and if you'll remember, I was doing that with that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a movie I've got memorized, and I think you kind of sympathized. It didn't seem to bug you. You were just like, I remember at one point going, "Oh, wait a minute, am I doing that?" And you're like, "No, dude, it's cool. I totally get it. It's not a problem."
I mean, it'd be different if I'd never seen it before.
Oh, of course, and I wouldn't have done it had you never seen it before. You know, I'm not that guy.
Speaking of which,
yes.
There were children in that audience who had never seen that movie. Kids that were that tall. People went to see this movie who had never seen it before. And that just filled me with so much joy to know that there's another generation that has a chance to see it in theaters.
I think that is the biggest reason to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest reason to do it. The second one is the nostalgia factor for those of us who didn't get to see certain things in the theater that we wish we had gotten to go to, or even people who it's been 20, 30 years and you remember seeing it in the theater and you'd like to have that experience again. Part of this has to do with how you want to see movies. Some people don't care about movie theaters and don't care about seeing it in that in that foray and large, and that sort of thing. And sometimes it's not so much about seeing things that are large as it is seeing it with a group of strangers. You know what I mean? Like we've these days technology has gotten such where we can do pretty much anything we want to in our own homes, and so we don't have so many of those experiences where we go out in public and experience things with strangers. And I think that I read an article, and I forget what it was about online the other day, that was kind of about that was saying one of the biggest things keeping movie theaters around is that it's one of those few major across the board kind of experiences that a lot of people still go and do. You know what I mean? And you still have plays, and you still have ballets, and you still have whatever you have. But I mean, like many more people go see movies than go see those sorts of things. And so to get to experience that with something that you that is so close to you that you have memorized. I think I can think of a number of movies that if they re-released them, I would be there. Yeah. I would go. 89 is like that. I would totally do it.
I would totally see the 90s Ninja Turtle movie again. I wish they would re-release that.
I actually did get to see that in the theater.
Oh,
not when it... Well, I may have seen it when it was out. I don't remember. I mean, I would have been 5 or 6. But I do know that a couple years after that, I was in one of those, like, little... I've told you about this, but I was in one of those, like, little kid, like theater clubs over the summer. You know what I'm talking about? Where you pay like $1 or $2, and you go see a movie every week or every couple days. I forget what it is, and it's always like movies that came out 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they're like kids appropriate, you know. And Ninja Turtles was one of those, which is barely kid appropriate, but it is. but that was
Ghostbusters isn't necessarily either. So.
But that was one of those, and I remember when I was a kid, I was like 7 or 8 when I went to that, and I remember distinctly this other little kid that I was talking to, who I mentioned, oh, I love this movie, I have it on videotape. And he was like, well, why are you here watching it if you have it on videotape? It was like he could not understand why I would get out of my house and go to something when I already could watch it at home. It's like, because I like seeing it in the movie theater.
You know, I think that seeing something with strangers, like for example, for me with Ghostbusters, there are parts of that movie, like I've seen it so many times that certain parts of it had lost its effect. And then I went to see it in the movie theater and I realized, like, oh my god, that is funny. I forgot that was funny. And there are certain parts that it just never occurred to me to really pay attention to it. And it's... I wish they do it with the Blues Brothers. I wish they do it with Animal House.
Let me ask you this. Are there movies that you didn't discover until well after they were in the theater that you watched and went, oh, I bet this would be so much better in a movie theater, and you wish they would re-release them? For me, it's The Matrix. If I could go back and see The Matrix in a movie theater, I would pay to do that.
I think I did see it in a movie theater.
See, I didn't. I didn't even know about The Matrix until a year after it was out somehow. And a friend of mine, when I was in junior high, was like, yeah, The Matrix, you totally have to see that. And he let me borrow it, and I was like, oh, how did I miss that? So, I mean, I saw 2 and 3 in the theater. But, I mean, like, if I could go back, yeah, I would see that.
There are movies that I think would be better in a theater. I think Equilibrium would be better in a theater. You know what I mean? The Christian Bale movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I saw that on a big screen, so it didn't matter. The screen was huge. So,
sure.
But, you know, that would be better in a theater. There's some, like, Incredibles is better in a theater. If you saw it on your personal videotape, you missed videotape. This is the 90s? But if you saw it on your personal home video theater, you totally missed out, because there is a specific moment in that movie that you need a crowd of strangers who have laughed and cried throughout the first and second act of that movie to really appreciate it.
Again, it's not all just about I'm seeing it large. It's I'm seeing it with people who have not seen it before. And so like we said, there's that, and then there's the new generation aspect. I think there are people who are really not liking this idea of re-releasing movies because they think that there are companies who are just making buku bucks for no good reason because these things already existed and that kind of thing. I'm not sure how I feel about that part of it. You know what I mean? About how, well, we're double dipping, we're making more money again. Maybe we shouldn't be charging full price, that sort of thing. But when you take all of that out of it, I haven't been real happy with movies on the whole in the last 5, 6, 7 years. On the whole. You know what I'm saying? And I like the idea that there are going to be kids who will go see some of the classic movies from, it sounds silly, really. The 90s classics. But you know, the movies that I feel are kind of classic from when I was a kid will go experience for the first time. It won't occur to them that it's a re-release.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe they'll get the same boost of creativity and imagination that I did watching them. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like right now, being in a place where so many movies are really formulaic, it's really nice to re-release some of the better ones. That's what I think. I think like anything, you can go too far. You know, but.
Yeah, you know, the way I feel about it is it depends on how you're re-releasing it. Like, for example, what they did with Ghostbusters is they just put it back in theaters. I didn't notice anything different, really.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't do anything to it. Yeah.
And it's like that. It's the difference between that and what they did with Star Wars. where they changed a bunch of stuff and then jammed it back in the theaters and said, "You're gonna watch this, and we're gonna shove it down your throat."
Yeah, exactly. I'm not okay with that.
And it bothers me that they're tampering with their original. Like understand. I think every filmmaker or every writer or everybody who puts something out into the public eye.
Oh, that's okay. This is important. Go ahead.
I think every one of these guys has this thought of, man, I wish I could have changed this. I wish I could have changed that. Man, I wish I would have had a bigger budget for this or more technology to produce what I wanted to produce. But the problem is that you're tampering with something that you had to use creativity to get around to begin with.
Well, you're tampering with history is what you're doing,
There's
especially
that.
if you're not allowing the originals to exist, which, I mean, we could do a whole episode on Lucas. In fact, let me do a quick plug for Mr. Fusion on this, because he did a video about this and was talking about how George Lucas has been trying to erase the originals from history. He's waiting for the VHS tapes to completely wear out, and then he's hoping that he can allegedly, and that he can get rid of the original masters and all that kind of stuff. That's bad. I mean, talk about whether or not you think it's okay for remastering things and changing effects and putting them back out in the theater again, but at least keep what we had in the first place. Look, if they re-released the original Star Wars movies the way that they were when they first came out, every 10 years, I could not complain about that. They're classics, and I kind of get the idea of, let's let every generation, if they want to, go experience that in a movie theater. That doesn't bother me. But it's what you're talking about that does.
I'd also like to see Blade Runner and Aliens.
Now, Blade Runner is one that has been changed. Also, a couple times, but that's a bit of a different thing.
Yeah.
Because the theatrical version and then the director's cut are very different things. And then then he made another version and said, "This is the version I was wanting to make in the first place," and that's a little different, Anyway,
it'd be like releasing the Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yeah, except that wouldn't look good in a movie theater.
Maybe not.
Is the problem.
But it'd still be kind of cool.
No, it would be cool. The problem with releasing the Donner cut in the theater is that there's a screen test in the middle of it. I mean, they had to patchwork that thing together. It's a fun watch, but it's hardly theatrical.
It's a good point.
Well, no, I mean, a lot of it is, but there are these pieces that. Well, anyway.
You're right. Polished is and
you would have to polish up the Daredevil director cut to re-release that. The effects in some of the scenes are only partially finished. It looks pretty decent, but if you put it up at a big screen, you go, wait a minute, that's not done. Yeah, you'd have to go back and change some things to make some of that kind of stuff work. Anyway.
Also, The Rocketeer. I'm done.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Thanks a lot for watching Geeks Not Nerds. Let us know what you think about this, about re-releasing movies, and feel free to list out movies you'd like to see re-released, and also talk about, we didn't even really go that far into Disney. Disney is planning on doing a lot more of these converted to 3D things like they did with Lion King, because that was successful. We didn't even talk about whether or not that's bad. Maybe there is some money milking going on there. I would feel a lot better about it if it wasn't 3D. But people are saying, well, the Lion King thing looked really good. I don't know, I didn't see it. So,
yeah, I don't care if it's 3D. That's just me.
So anyway,
silly, but go for it.
But yeah, we didn't touch on the Disney stuff. I'm sure people are going to have opinions on that. So anyway, feel free to talk about all that stuff and more in the comments. And if there's anything you'd like us to talk about in a future video, be sure to leave that in the comments as well. And thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store. Not that this had anything to do with comic books, or stores for that matter. But support them! What you doing?
We'll see you next week.